Hey guys, Mighty Gazelle here with a very special movie review. I don't do movie reviews too much, but as a lot of you guys know, I'm a huge My Hero Academia fan, and recently I was fortunate enough to be able to go to the world premiere at Anime Expo in Los Angeles, and let me just say it was quite a fun experience. Other than the lines and the things I had to do to make sure I got in, I'll talk more about that in a different video. It was such a great fan experience. Every time something funny happened in the movie, all the fans were just joyously laughing. Whenever something like crazy happened, everyone would gasp at the same time. You could tell it was a room full of fans, and this was just a great fan experience. And I'm very lucky to have been a part of it. And for anyone who's curious, here's my pass proof, sucker. Not like you need proof or anything. But yeah, I am going to tell you guys what I thought about the movie. I'm going to start spoiler free, and then I'll let you guys know when I dive into the spoilers, plot details, and stuff like that. First impressions. This was a very good movie. It definitely reached my expectations of what a My Hero Academia movie could be. The animation, top notch. Of course, it's Studio Bones. Give them the money to look what they do with the budget for a show. Give them the money for a movie. Man, they're gonna go off running with it. The action is quite honestly mind-blowing, and I'll talk about what I mean more about that in the spoiler section. But I have a few things I want to say about that. I have a few issues with the movie as well. The plot was the only part of the movie that was weak, honestly. The characters are all great, the humor is great, action's great, animation great. The plot was the one thing that kind of suffered a little bit, and I'll dive into that. Let's see, what else is spoiler-free that I can mention. If you watch the trailers, obviously we know All Might. We see All Might in his prime, and yeah, it's pretty cool. Again, on the spoiler section, I'll talk more about it. I'm trying to just be clean here for everyone who doesn't want anything to be spoiled for them. My Hero Academia, Two Heroes, I believe this is the name of the movie. Honestly, it's not the best anime movie ever made, but it's very, very good. Oftentimes it feels like an episode of the anime just on steroids. And I know that sounds like it might be a kind of a knock on it. It's not. It's a very, very, very enjoyable movie. It is not perfect though. I do have some flaws with it. So yeah, that is kind of my spoiler-free section. If you want to take away from that, just know I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great movie, and it was a great fan experience being there for the world premiere. It was a lot of fun. Okay, spoilers. Where do I want to start with this? This is not professional, by the way. This is just me rambling my thoughts on about this. I guess I'll start with some of the few negatives that I have. There are a few. The plot is not particularly strong. It's just kind of generic, I guess I should say. So, let's see, how should I go about this? There's basically two plot lines throughout the movie. One of them is rather good. So, Deku meets a girl named Melanie. I believe her name's Melanie, and she is basically quirkless. And throughout the movie, we get this storyline of how you can be a hero even if you're quirkless. And it's kind of cool we got that, because we could have gotten that with Deku, but obviously he got his powers before that plot line could ever go anywhere. So it's cool that they're going back to that old thing they had set up with Deku and able to actually finish it and show what you can be a hero without a quirk. Obviously Deku, still wanted to be a hero without a quirk, but he got one of the best powers ever. So Melanie is a really cool character, and they really drove home a good point about how you can do things to help society and others without having a quirk. And it was kind of cool how it bounced off of Deku that way, because obviously he knows where she's coming from in that regard. So that was really cool. I liked that plot line a lot. The second plot line is, how do I say this? This is the one that's kind of generic. And what I mean is, so All Might back in his heyday, back when not his heyday, because all day is his heyday. It's freaking All Might. I guess more so when he's younger, kind of more in his prime, and he's just becoming a real big name hero. He had this partner named Dave. Now Dave is Melanie's father, and Dave doesn't have any quirks of his own, so he invents things. He's a scientist, and the plot line with Dave, basically, again, this is spoilers. So the first half of the film, we see Dave concerned over All Might because obviously back in the heyday, All Might was this unstoppable symbol of peace, just beating up bad guys left and right, no problem. But Dave is concerned with... So Dave doesn't know about all for one, like one for all, and how you pass it down from person to person. So when he sees All Might's quirk deteriorate, he starts to get concerned, and obviously All Might doesn't want to tell him anything because he's good friends and he doesn't want him to be led on to this dangerous secret, you know. So All Might just tells him, "I'm getting old, you know. I've been a hero for a long time, and I'm just getting beat up." But Dave doesn't really buy that. He looks at the numbers and he says that besides your injury that you got from All for One, your powers are deteriorating much faster than they should. Much faster than just the injury alone. And obviously this is because he passed his power on to Deku, and ever since that moment it's just been going much, much faster. So where this plot line gets kind of cliche, I guess, is about like a third of the way into the movie, villains attack. And these are just kind of generic villains at first. You don't really know what's going on. They take everyone hostage on the island, and by the way, this takes place on an island. Take everyone hostage, and let's see, how should I say this? Basically, they're just trying to steal something. And the reason they're trying to steal something is something we don't learn about until like past halfway in the movie, and this is where it gets kind of dumb. So Dave, we get this flashback or memory of sorts of what Dave was working on as a scientist like a few years back, and it's basically a device that allows quirks to be amplified without harming the person. So basically you can, like, if someone had like power of fire like Todoroki, it would just be immensely times 10 fire. It'd just be ridiculous, but it wouldn't hurt the user. It amplifies their quirk. And we randomly get this story out of the blue about how he tried to propose this to the government, and they immediately shut it down and ordered him to seal it away. The reason I'm bringing this up is Dave set up these villains to try to steal this thing so it doesn't look like he's trying to get it back, because he really wants the item that can amplify your power. He wants to try to help All Might with it, which by itself is fine, but these villains that he hired are causing a lot of problems. And so basically, okay, so he wants to get this device to help All Might return his powers to normal, because he doesn't know why he's losing his powers, but if he knew, he obviously wouldn't do this. Here's where it gets kind of dumb. The boring, identity-less villains that this guy hired to make it look like they were trying to steal the item for him, they double-cross Dave. And the leader of this fake villain group, he's got magneto powers. He can control metal, basically, which is pretty cool. If it's just kind of random how it shows up in the movie. Anyway, so he double crosses Dave, and he wants to steal the weapon for himself, and he's gonna force Dave to like manufacture it and sell it to everyone and be rich, basically. And basically, the movie culminates to this villain of sorts using the device and fighting All Might and Deku and stuff like that. We'll get to that in a moment. It just felt kind of cliche. Like backstab from the guy, you know, and not only that, but it was just kind of out of the blue that this device really existed, because they didn't mention it until past halfway in the movie, which was kind of weird to me. Let's see, what else? Also, when I mentioned earlier that this is kind of a... I don't know, actually I don't know if I mentioned this earlier. Basically, the movie feels like a great episode of My Hero Academia on steroids. And what I mean by that is it doesn't really feel like a movie. It feels like somewhere between a movie and a really great episode of the anime, which is still awesome. And what I mean by that is it follows familiar kind of beats. There'll be a moment where Deku will say something inspiring and get all of his classmates to like rally with him, and they all decide to join him on whatever mission it is. Like that, we've been there, done that. We got moments like that. We get we get moments of Mineta being pervy and stuff. Let me just say I find this all very entertaining. I think it makes the movie very fun, and it's a great time. It's not its fault. It makes it feel like an episode of an anime, of the anime, which is fine because the anime is great. It's just kind of a shame that they didn't like do something new, I guess, with the movie, because you just kind of get familiar things. Obviously, they'll get like Bakugo complaining that like someone's doing something wrong, and he'll angrily do it better or whatever. That's just how characters are, but it's just the way they do it. It felt just like an episode of an anime, but obviously in the movie, the animation is like the animation's so good in this movie. I'll just say that I can't really describe it in words, but it's just so much more fluid, and they really put a lot into the expressions. And when I say this feels like an episode of the anime, they don't get me wrong. They do a lot of stuff that are new too. The expressions of the characters are more lively. The world is just so breathtakingly drawn and everything, and it does have a different feel to it. But it's like halfway between a movie and a great episode of the anime, which is still awesome. Don't get me wrong. So yeah, those are my only complaints, really. Actually, no, I have one more complaint. I'll save that for the end, though. So let's get to some positives. All Might in his prime. Okay, so this was something I was seriously looking forward to. I was like, how much are we going to learn about All Might in his prime? Like what kind of details are they going to give us? And I still don't really know if this is canon or not, but I kind of hope some of these details are canon. So basically, we learn that All Might was born in California, which is cool. Like, he's born in the United States, and like he does a move in the opening scene of the movie where he does an LA smash, like Los Angeles smash, inside like Los Angeles, which is also cool because that's where we were watching the obviously the premiere in Los Angeles. So everyone's like, oh my god, he's like right here. And we get this beautiful opening sequence where All Might's just, well, technically it's not him first. These other heroes are fighting this bank robber, and then All Might comes in and just starts to beat the living crap out of him. It was awesome. And then Dave shows up, and it shows kind of the continuity between him and Dave. It's all great. But the thing about All Might in his prime, this isn't really just him in his prime. It's almost him before his prime, because they say he's an exchange student at the beginning of this movie. So basically he'd be like, what, college? And he's still unknown. Like, people don't really know who All Might is, at least in Japan, because I think that's where it starts, if I'm not wrong, in Japan. So people don't really know who he is, and they're like, who is he? Like, and he's like, All Might, and they're like, All Might? Who's All Might? It's just kind of cool. And then like the beginning sequence ends with All Might's just like a big, strong puppy, like in his youth. Cause he's like, oh, can we stall a little longer and go get this other bad guy, please, please, please? And then Dave's like, oh, fine. That's what heroes do. And then All Might's like, yes, let's get him. It's just kind of funny. He's like got this vigor about him. And All Might in his prime was really awesome. Initially, I was worried that him having eyes and pupils would throw me off, but that's not the case. Not at all. It looks really, really good. Bones did a great job animating him and everything. That's great. Unfortunately, we don't get too much more of him in his prime like that. It's just the main, like, the first 10 minutes of the movie, which is still awesome. That's probably one of my favorite parts of the movie, honestly. It was so good. The animation was just, like, mind-blowing. Anyway, so other things I like, all the characters had such great humor in this movie. And it was well placed too. There would be like a time where, I don't want to say too many of this stuff because this video is going to be way too long by the time I'm done with it if I do. There'll be like a time where they'll have like a contest of like strength, and obviously Bakugo goes first. He's all cocky because he got a good score, and then like Midori gets roped into doing it, and he like does really really well as well. And then like he gets mad, and then Todoroki tries it, and it's just like there's so much humor in this movie, and it's so well done. I will say, Mineta had some of the funniest moments in this movie. Surprisingly, Mineta's in the movie. Most of the Class A is in the movie, although some of them really aren't. Like they get like a line, and then that's it. Mineta's in the movie quite a bit, and he has great moments, and then he has moments like I'm kind of worried they're trying to push Mineta too hard in the pervy direction. Obviously, he's a perv, but there's sometimes it's just too much. It's too much. Like every third time you see him, it's just another like perv joke, which sometimes it hits and it's really funny, but other times it's like okay, like that's that familiar beats I was talking about again. That's similar to the anime. It's like sometimes you don't need that. Okay, so I kind of want to dive into my biggest sort of... It's not a complaint. So, okay, at the end of the movie, All Might is fighting Magneto. I'll call him Magneto, because I don't remember the guy's actual name, because I don't really think they said it too much. He's the guy who controls metal. And he's got the device that's powering up his quirk. So this guy's just doing monstrous attacks. Like he's beating the crap out of All Might. And All Might, let's just say he's doing pretty well. Like he's fighting back obviously, and he's looking pretty badass doing it, but he's obviously his time limit's coming up and he's just pushing himself and he's coughing up blood. And earlier on in the movie, Deku gets this device. You've seen it in the trailers, and it's this red glove of sorts. And it basically allows him to use his arms full strength without hurting himself. And my biggest issue is it kind of makes Deku broken in this movie. Not just for the arm, but... Okay, I'm going to try to explain this best I can. There's a moment where... Not just a moment, like a whole sequence when... And this is major spoilers, by the way. This is probably the hypest moment of the whole movie. This is near the end. They're fighting Magneto, and basically All Might is like, Deku, let's do this together. And they start both going after the villain, like side by side, like both punching, both like doing everything, dodging. And the thing it's kind of broken, and I hope this isn't really canon because it overshadows everything that Deku did in Season 3. Like, it makes everything he did in Season 3 look like a joke. I'm not even kidding. He's borderline Super Saiyan, Deku is, in this movie, toward the end when they're fighting Magneto. And I don't know if this is just because All Might's hurt and he's slower or something. He is toe-to-toe, step for step, the same speed as All Might. He's punching just as hard as All Might, and there's even a moment where like All Might's running after the guy and Deku's keeping up with him like easily. And don't get me wrong, it's amazing. This is like phenomenal animation. The action is awesome. I enjoyed the living hell out of it. But the little part of me is just like, well, I mean, this makes the Muscular fight look like nothing. And this takes place between Season 2 and Season 3. So this is before the Muscular fight. Like, so if this is canon, and this isn't even like regarding to his arm. He's moving with his legs, like the speed of All Might, with effortless ease, you know? Like, if he was even half as strong as he is in this section in the movie, he would still mop the floor with Muscular. I'm not even kidding. I hope you guys watch the movie and you can see what I'm saying. It's absurd. And I don't know. Part of me is just like, I love how over the top they went with it because... And they both combo the crap out of the villain, by the way. I'm not going to say like how they do it because I don't want to spoil everything. But man, it just kind of, if it is canon, it really seriously overshadows the feats that mainly Deku does in Season 3. It doesn't really overshadow All Might's because obviously All Might was like near the end of his strength in Season 3, so that'll never really be overshadowed because of just how much he had to push himself at that moment. But by the way, All Might is he doesn't get a pass either. They buffed the crap out of him in this movie, even though he's still like getting hurt and he's like losing at one point and everything. He's other than him coughing up blood and stuff, he looks very reminiscent of how he did in his prime in the early part of the movie. And I loved it. It was awesome. It was so fun. It made the movie great. But it's just like it's weird. I don't know how I feel about that being canon. And I know there's plenty of you out there like, oh, who matters if it's canon or not? And it's like I care. I don't know. Like, because if those events actually did happen, and I don't know, it'd make the muscular fight look like child's play, and that'd be kind of disappointing. But yeah, so that overall, My Hero Academia, Two Heroes was a very entertaining movie. Great animation, lots of laughs. The action was phenomenal, if a little over the top at times. Deku and All Might, pretty OP in this movie, and I'll give it a pass just because like it's awesome, but you know, I hope it's not canon in a way. But if it's not canon, that means All Might stuff with him being born in California isn't either. That's a whole different debate. Anyway, My Hero Academia, I give it like a 9 out of 10. It is not perfect in my eyes, but it is a very solid and very enjoyable movie. And all My Hero Academia fans, look forward to it. It's coming to the United States in fall. I imagine Europe as well is getting it, and other parts of the world. I'm very happy that I managed to see it, and I can tell you guys about it. Hope you guys enjoy this review. I rambled. It's over 20 minutes. Hopefully you gained something from it. So yeah. Until next time, this has been Mighty Gazelle, hoping you all have a mighty day. Go beyond. Plus Ultra. Oh, that was a good part of the movie too.